공동 대응은 빠를수록 완벽할수록 이렇게 좋다. 그리고 그것에 지금 사활이 걸려 있다. 이렇게 저는 말씀드리고 싶습니다.
The daily average of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Seoul is reported as 2.9, despite a series of mass infection crises. Seoul has a population of over 10 million. It is a densely populated metropolis with a high risk of virus infection. But no city lockdown has been made. Fast preemptive response and transparent provision of information. Centering on these two principles, the Seoul Metropolitan Government cooperated closely with Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The city government has operated the Seoul Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters for 24 hours a day from the early stages to monitor new infectious diseases and disinfected public transportations and facilities used by many citizens and visitors. Seoul, while monitoring the virus, had also prepared necessary countermeasures against the COVID-19, such as citizens' guidelines, virus testing, contacts management, and quarantine treatment. To contain the virus to not spread to the local community, Seoul was committed to conducting epidemiological investigation, quarantine treatment, and identifying and tracking patients and contacts. Seoul now becomes a model for cities around the world in terms of the COVID-19 quarantine measures. At the request of cities overseas, the Seoul Metropolitan Government opened an online platform entitled CAC, which stands for Cities Against COVID-19, on April 9th, and has been sharing all information on the COVID-19 quarantine know-hows and countermeasures Seoul has taken so far. However, Seoul has not completely succeeded in COVID-19 quarantine. The first crisis came to Seoul in March, after the country's first outbreak of COVID-19 in January. A mass infection occurred at a call center in Guro district.
서울에서 발생한 집단 감염 가운데 최대 규모의 사례가 나왔습니다.
27명이 추가로 확진된 겁니다.
집단 발생 즉각 대응반을 구성해서 역학 조사를 실시하고 있습니다. 위중하게 이 상황을 인식하고 추가 확산을 막기 위해서 최선을 다하고 있습니다.
Using mobile access records and credit card transactions, the city government identified more than 1,000 contacts and conducted tests for COVID-19. The government asked for citizens for active cooperation for self-quarantine to prevent a second or third transmission of the virus to the community. Call centers and public facilities across Seoul were disinfected thoroughly.
서울시는 시민 모두가 저희들이 그 요청한 대로의 생활 방역을 철저히 해주셨고, 확진 환자 유증상이 발생했을 시에는 각 보건소에 적극적으로 검사를 임함으로써 저희들이 효과를 거두지 않았나 이렇게 생각을 합니다.
After the switch from the social distancing to the distancing in daily life in May, an unexpected mass infection occurred at clubs in Itaewon. Based on the experience of mass infection at the Guro call center, the city government tracked down the Itaewon visitors working together with the National Police Agency and the mobile service companies. The Seoul Metropolitan Government immediately introduced the anonymous testing and operated additional walk-through testing stations.
저희가 서울시에서 4개 드라이빙 스루를 운영하면서 수많은 예신기자들이 취재 요청이 있어서 중수도공항 쪽에서 지침도 협조가 오거나 그런 걸 많이 제공한 걸로 알고 있습니다. 서울시에서는 6월 초부터 선제적 검사를 해가지고 학생이라든지 어린이를 감염에 취약한 분들이 있는 장소를 찾아가서 선제적 검사가 지금 검토 중입니다.
As the number of confirmed cases is rising, Seoul is once again checking quarantine countermeasures against COVID-19 and conducting preemptive virus testings. The distancing in daily life has been further tightened. We must stay alert to this unpredictable virus.
And they are going through a sort of more stringent lockdown than we've had here in South Korea, because the South Korean government and I guess the Seoul government have dealt with the coronavirus in kind of unique ways. particularly in terms of testing and contact tracing and, targeted quarantining. The country's been a little bit more successful in keeping the number of cases and the number of deaths down. Well, I think the most important part of, so-called K quarantine is the contact tracing that needs to take place. In order to contain the virus, you need to know where it came from. And that means that, Western countries, the publics in Western countries are going to need to sacrifice some of their privacy in order for contact tracing to be really effective. That's the biggest lesson that I think other countries and other governments can learn from South Korea's experience in containing the virus.
Along with the immediate response of the government, dedication of the frontline medical workers, and participation of citizens who practice social distancing made it possible for Korea to be a role model in quarantine measures. Yet, COVID-19 will leave much of an impact on our society. It has changed our daily lives, and economic and social damages are also significant. For any possible outbreak in the future, what should we do to prepare? For the world after COVID-19, how can cities in the world cooperate with each other? Now, the world is paying attention to Seoul's next move.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea, SK Chung. I want to thank everyone joining us today at Cities Against COVID-19 Global Summit 2020. Today's CAC is being hosted virtually in the absence of a live audience, which further underscores the profound impact of COVID-19 on our daily lives. Together, we now face a common crisis, COVID-19, and the way to overcome it lies in the power of information sharing and connection. Rather than retreat into nationalist isolation and closure, we need to move forward towards global access and solidarity. International cooperation, as humanity's greatest resource, will determine the outcome of our struggle against COVID-19. I'd like to call this global social capital, of which today's CAC Global Summit 2020 will serve as a springboard. Esteemed mayors of the world and participants of today's Global Summit, at the onset of the COVID-19 outbreak, Korea struggled due to the rapid increase of confirmed cases. But the use of an IT-based self-quarantine application, meticulous contact tracing, and innovative diagnostic methods such as drive-through testing centers enabled us to curb further spread of the virus. The success of this disease control system has given rise to the term K-disease control as a useful reference point to many major cities around the world. In the spirit of solidarity and cooperation, Korea hopes that its COVID-19 testing technology and disease control system will contribute to the international eradication of the virus. We will do our utmost to provide necessary material support and share knowledge and information. Finally, we hope that this global summit serves to reaffirm the solidarity and will to cooperate among city governments while promoting progress toward overcoming the COVID-19 crisis. Insofar as many hands make light work, I ask that you gather all your collective wisdom at today's summit. Thank you.
여러분 반갑습니다. 서울특별시의회 의장 신원철입니다. 전 세계적으로 코로나19의 기세가 꺾일 줄 모르고 있습니다. 코로나19로 인한 피해는 단순히 보건 분야에 국한되지 않고 경제를 비롯한 사회 전 분야로 퍼져나가는 중입니다. 그리고 지속기간이 길어지면 길어질수록 사회 문제는 점점 더 다양한 양상으로 나타날 수밖에 없습니다. 서울시 또한 코로나19의 영향 아래에 있습니다. 서울시는 다소 이른 시기인 지난 1월부터 코로나를 경험했고 여전히 코로나 극복에 최선을 다하고 있습니다. 위기는 반드시 교훈을 남깁니다. 코로나19라는 글로벌 위기를 겪으며 전 세계는 각 국가와 도시 간의 연대와 협력이 얼마나 중요한지를 다시금 깨달았습니다. 감염병의 전파와 경제 위기 확산에 있어서 지구는 지구촌이라는 말 그대로 하나의 마을에 지나지 않았던 것입니다. 너와 나를 구분짓거나 너의 지역과 나의 지역을 경계짓는 일은 무의미했습니다. 우리 모두는 지구라는 한 마을에서 함께 살아가는 이웃입니다. CAC 글로벌 서밋 2020은 이웃인 우리가 연대하고 협력하는 자리입니다. 세계 주요 도시의 전문가들이 코로나19의 경험을 공유하고 논의하며 포스트 코로나를 대비할 수 있는 기회입니다. 코로나19는 물론이고 미래에 발생할 또 다른 감염병 대응에 있어서 국제적인 네트워크에 초석이 되어줄 것이라고 생각합니다. 이런 뜻깊은 행사를 서울시가 주도할 수 있어서 기쁘고 또 앞으로 연례화할 수 있도록 서울시 의회도 애정과 관심을 가지고 적극 지원하겠습니다. 우리는 반드시 이번 위기를 극복할 수 있습니다. 연대와 협력으로 함께 나아갑시다.
Welcome to the Mayoral Meeting, the opening event of Cities Against COVID-19 Global Summit 2020. Today's meeting will begin at 10 p.m. Korean time. We hope this will serve as a meaningful occasion to gather the wisdom of people around the world as we work together to overcome the coronavirus pandemic and prepare for a new order in the post-COVID-19 era. For your information, this meeting is being broadcast live through the English YouTube channel of Seoul City. So may I ask that you take care to keep your camera and network connection stable during this meeting and pay special attention to your microphones. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, and welcome to the Mayoral Meeting, the opening event of Cities Against COVID-19 Global Summit 2020. I'm Nasingyan, and it is my honor to be your moderator for today's meeting. First of all, I would like to thank the representatives of some 40 cities around the world who are attending this virtual international conference. The entire global community is afflicted, directly or indirectly, by the COVID-19 pandemic. Today's meeting will serve to bring together our experiences, efforts, and ideas in fighting COVID-19 and further promote city-to-city cooperation and solidarity in responding to infectious diseases. We will begin with a keynote speech by Mayor Park Won-soon of Seoul, the host city. And afterwards, we'll hear about the experiences and know-how of 4 cities, namely London, Maryland, Jakarta, and Moscow. And finally, we'll discuss ways on how cities can cooperate for a joint response to new infectious diseases. For your information, this virtual conference will be broadcast live via the English YouTube channel of Seoul City. And now, to open today's meeting, I would like to invite Mayor Park Won-soon of Seoul to deliver his keynote speech, "When we walk together, we can make a way," Seoul's proposal for overcoming urban crises in the pandemic era. Mayor Park Won-soon, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. It's now in Seoul. It's 10 o'clock p.m. So, but you are, in different time. So I should say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I'm Park Won-soon, Mayor of Seoul. In this busy and difficult time, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I would like to welcome and thank mayors from all over the world for joining us today to gather our wisdom together. So first of all, let me share Seoul's COVID-19 experiences and measures. In this, the world is suffering. The unprecedented infectious disease of humanity is sweeping every corner of the world, resulting in more than 6 million confirmed cases and of 350,000 deaths around the globe until now. So even worse, nobody knows when this battle will come to an end. Fortunately, some countries, including Republic of Korea, are managing to overcome the pandemic relatively well. Although this battle is ongoing, still our efforts send out a hopeful message that humanity is able to surmount this unseen disaster. So now is the time to share such hopes with others. So 5 years ago actually, in 2015, Korea experienced the outbreak of MERS. This unfamiliar infectious disease flown from the Middle East caused a total of 186 infected cases and 38 deaths. So we learned an important lesson from this torment. Transparency and promptness are silver bullet for infectious disease. And excessive response is better than sluggish response. So based on this lesson, we learned the hard way. Seoul was able to develop the principle to contain the transmission of COVID-19 in a swift manner. There is 3 key principles. The first principle is STI, speed, transparency, innovations. So once a cluster infectious broke out, the Seoul Metropolitan Government carried out prompt and extensive testing, immediately tracked the movement of confirmed cases, and preemptively quarantined those who came into contact with them. So by sharing information in transparent manner, we helped ease citizens' anxiety and encouraged them to participate in our containment efforts. This was then accompanied by our innovative ideas. Our anti-epidemic measures like walk-through and drive-through screening centers, emergency task force, mobile health checkup apps are now being recognized as K-quarantines. So the second is leadership and citizenship. Since the outbreak, the Korean governments, both central and municipal, have united as one. When Seoul preemptively adopted innovative measures, the central government swiftly expanded them nationwide. Another important pillar is mature citizenship. Citizens were not only an object of anti-epidemic measures, but also the main actors of them. So They took initiative in social distancing by voluntarily wearing face masks, following precaution guidelines, and practicing self-quarantines. So I can safely say that citizens are a cure for the city of Seoul. Third, the global solidarity and cooperation. Since Seoul kept the COVID-19 situations under control, we made a donation of medical supplies to our system-friendly cities who are struggling with the pandemic. For the cities who want to learn from Seoul's experience, we have willingly shared our disease control expertise and helped them purchase reliable medical supplies. So in today's highly connected society, the only option for us to save each other is through solidarity and cooperation. Nonetheless, this battle against the pandemic seems unlikely to be over anytime soon. The post-coronavirus world will be completely different from the one before. There, city governments should come forward and take the lead. In fact, the UN estimates that more than 2/3 of the world population will live in urban areas within 10 years from now. The fourth industrial revolution is coming right around the corner on our journey to a hyper-connected society. But the recent COVID-19 outbreak reaffirmed that the more the civilization is developed, the more powerful impact the infectious disease brings. So the easiest way to prevent an intercity virus spread is lockdown. However, this may be a solution only for short-term, but cannot be a fundamental one. To protect our citizens' lives from infectious diseases and disasters, all city governments around the globe should put our collective heads together. So suggest all the municipal governments to join our concerted efforts to respond to the pandemic together. So the municipal government should strengthen the capabilities to fight disease like COVID-19 by sharing our own knowledge and practices to each other. To cope with the disaster of future infection, even after COVID-19, Seoul aims to build a new standard by improving our capabilities in 3 main areas: healthcare, infrastructure, and social systems. So first, healthcare capabilities. Korea's COVID-19 control and prevention efforts are often described as 3T model: testing, tracing, and treating. So we were able to prevent large-scale infections by adopting these 3 methods in a very swift and systematic manner. However, 3 T's will not be enough. So reinforcing the capacity of the public healthcare system will be the first step for future cities to properly respond to infectious disease and disasters. So second, Seoul will enhance our urban infrastructure. Every metropolis is required to have the urban infrastructure that is sufficient and systematic to overcome disastrous and official critical situations. Cities should be equipped with an efficient communication system, an emergency transport system, the manufacturing facilities and capacity of advanced medical equipment, along with smart city technologies like IoT and big data. So on top of that, we also have to have an alternative urban infrastructure based on non-contact technologies in order to maintain ordinary lives in times of crisis. Third, Seoul will improve legal and institutional capabilities to overcome and cope with disasters. This is the key factor for urban resilience. So more often than not, crises hit the vulnerable harder and deeper, inevitably worsening social inequalities. So therefore, it is imperative to make an effort to safeguard the vulnerable and underprivileged, more so in times of crisis like this, and ultimately address social inequalities. When disaster is prolonged, citizens are more likely to be at risk. To prepare for this, it is vital to establish solid legal and institutional systems assuring income, healthcare, and jobs. Such solid foundation will help minimize damages in times of disasters and serve as fundamental force to restore our ordinary life. It is challenging to create one standard that fits all the cities with different features and characteristics. Cooperation among municipal governments is essential so that we can all share our abundance and fulfill each other's need. When we work hand in hand through the darkness, we will find the light. When we work together, we can make the way. So the first step towards that way is to share our wisdom and experiences and to cooperate in human and material resource support between cities and countries. We should first start by pulling together in order to overcome the current COVID-19 pandemics. As some of you may know, with the launch of an online platform called CAC, Cities Against COVID-19, Seoul has been sharing our experience and updates regarding coronavirus. Since its launch in April, it has already recorded almost 7 million views. And today, I'm very pleased to kick off the virtual CAC Global Summit with this mayoral meetings. I extend my warmest welcome to my fellow mayors and governors, also those who are watching this online. I'm very grateful for your interest and participations. Taking these opportunities, Seoul hereby proposes to build an intercity network on the tentative name called CAAP, Cities Alliance Against Pandemic, in order to brace for future disasters and infectious disease outbreaks with joint efforts of our partner cities. Cities will take the lead in overcoming the pandemic and shape the future of humanity. Please join us in solidarity to open up a new chapter of the post-coronavirus era. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for your keynote speech and for your main message that if we are united, we can overcome COVID-19, including the feared second wave. Next, we will hear 4 case presentations, starting with London. The UK has been the epicenter of the outbreak in Europe, and the country just started to ease lockdown measures. So if London is connected, we would like to ask the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, to present his presentation. It seems that we are having some... London Mayor Sadiq Khan is on standby. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to have the chance to take part today. It's great to see so many familiar faces and friends of London joining from around the world. I want to begin by expressing my deep gratitude to my friend, the Mayor of Seoul, Park Won-soon, not only for his insightful and engaging speech, but for organizing this summit and for the global leadership his city has shown since the start of the pandemic. And this event is a perfect example of the international leadership that's desperately needed right now to contain the virus and prevent it from inflicting further suffering on our citizens. So thank you, Mayor Park, for everything you're doing. As the Mayor of London, I'm proud to endorse the Seoul Statement, a document which codifies our shared commitment and demonstrates our clear resolve to work together so we can stop the spread of this virus, protect the health of our populations, and emerge stronger from this crisis. I've always said I want to be a mayor who builds bridges, not walls, because fundamentally, I believe we achieve far more together than we do alone. And nowhere is this more apparent than when it comes to tackling a global pandemic, which by definition is a monumental challenge that transcends continental, state, and city boundaries. It's for this reason I welcome the emphasis on solidarity and cooperation in the communique, as well as the proposal for an inter-city network. This will allow us to fortify our defenses against infectious diseases and maintain the social, economic, and cultural links that are so integral to our success and our shared prosperity. As you'll be aware, London has been hit hard by this pandemic. The virus has had a devastating impact, causing huge pain and grief, just like many other cities around the world. I'm pleased to say that as a result of the monumental efforts of Londoners, we now appear to have come through the worst of this first wave, with the number of new infections being reported down drastically. However, I'm far from complacent, and I want to make sure we're doing everything possible to prevent a resurgence. Now is not the time for us to take our foot off the brake, or we risk leaving ourselves vulnerable to a second wave. And that's why I've been at pains to stress to Londoners that even as our government makes adjustments to the restrictions to give people greater freedoms and to enable some to go back to work, we must still follow public health advice to the letter. My administration is continuing to urge all Londoners to avoid public transport unless it's necessary and to adhere to social distancing rules, to encourage people to continue to work from home where possible to stop the spread of the virus, and to walk and cycle to workplaces instead. We're calling for supermarkets to stock non-medical grade face coverings at a reasonable price to make them accessible to all Londoners, and many are now doing so. And we're also supporting the implementation of the test, trace, and isolate program, which, as we've seen from other cities around the world, including Seoul, is a vital tool to overcome this disease. We've also procured hotel rooms for rough sleepers, created new walking routes and cycling paths for Londoners, and launched a crowdfunding scheme which allows Londoners to buy goods and services in advance from small businesses to help them stay afloat during the lockdown. In partnership with the C40 group of cities, we're also exploring how we can ensure that the recovery from COVID-19 is economically inclusive and helps us to address the climate crisis. You know, we need to come out of this embracing a new normal with a renewed drive to tackle systemic inequalities and the climate emergency. In London, we'll continue to work with other major cities across the globe, like yourselves, to identify and share the most effective actions we can take. I'm thankful for the opportunity to learn from your experiences and to listen to any advice about how we can continue to ease restrictions in a safe and sustainable way. Look, these are trying times for all of us. I want to end by reiterating how grateful we are to you, not only for your solidarity, but for the practical difference your cooperation can make and is making in this fight. Together, I'm confident we'll showcase the benefits of acting as an international community, safeguarding our citizens, turning the tide on this disease, and ultimately navigating our way through this crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sadiq Khan, for sharing London's story. And now I'd like to invite Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland to give his presentation. Maryland just reported this past weekend that COVID-19 hospitalizations have dropped to their lowest level since mid-April. Governor Hogan, if you are ready, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mayor Park, for hosting us. It's such an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to talk with so many distinguished leaders from around the world. I want to thank you for that opportunity. Let me, before we touch on the topic that we're all here, and I think it's wonderful the cities against COVID have united to talk about this issue. I know that some of you have been following the goings-on in American cities over the past several days. I just wanted to say how proud I am of our city of Baltimore last night, where we had thousands of people protesting very peacefully without any violence or destruction. And it was really, I think we set an example for the rest of the cities in America, and just wanted to say that to start out. But I'm the chairman of the National Governors Association, so in that role, I lead all of America's 50 governors, 55 when you include the territories and the states. And we work very closely with all of our cities and counties, all of our municipal leaders. This COVID crisis obviously is something that every one of us has been dealing with and trying to figure out the solutions to. In America, the governors have been taking the lead along with our municipal leaders rather than the federal government. And we've been focused on this from the very beginning. I can tell you that in my particular case, the state of Maryland is in the middle of the heart of the mid-Atlantic region surrounding the nation's capital here, close to Washington, D.C. We had our first case on March 5th, about 90 days ago. We had a couple of tourists that were traveling on an Egyptian cruise up the Nile River who came back with the disease. We now have 54,000 confirmed cases, nearly 2,500 deaths, and we've been focused on this day and night for the past 90 days. Really, we've been focused on four primary kind of building blocks that I think many of you also have probably been dealing with. This crisis has involved, first of all, we've been focused on very early and aggressive actions. Taking action quickly. We declared a state of emergency the very first day, shut down our schools and many of our businesses, and put in stay-at-home orders. That really helped us get a handle on keeping it from being as bad as it was in other places on the East Coast, like New York and New Jersey. But at this point, we're starting to come down the curve with respect to our number of cases, with the positivity rate. But it's still a big issue. We've done about 350,000 tests. We have testing, contact tracing, hospital surge, and PPE have been our four things that we've been focused on. Testing, we've done about 350,000 tests. It's about 5% of our population. I want to again give a shout out to our hosts from Seoul. We were lucky enough to negotiate the acquisition of 500,000 tests from a Korean company that has really helped us. So we want to thank them for their cooperation. With respect to the PPE, the personal protective equipment, we've been sourcing that from companies all around the globe. And it's in America, the federal government hasn't really been acquiring those things. It's been the states and the cities who've been out on the open market trying to find all of the things that we need. But we've been ramping up our hospital surge capacity. We added 8,500 hospital beds, including opening up closed hospitals, putting hospitals in our convention centers, and any number of things to expand that capacity, especially with our intensive care beds and bringing in ventilators. The personal protective equipment has been a real struggle here in most places around America, maybe for many of you in other countries as well, with not having enough masks, not having enough gowns and protective equipment, not enough swabs, transport mediums, lots of little things that don't seem like they should have been a problem have been a tremendous problem for us. But America's governors have been working very closely together. We normally are just running our own individual states. In this case, we've been now having meetings together like you're having here today on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week, often with the president and the vice president. We also have meetings with our local leaders, with our city and county leaders on a weekly basis. So I think this communication amongst and between ourselves is terrific. I know that the theme of your conference here is Together We Stand, and I couldn't agree more with that. I think we have to be all in this together. It does take the cooperation of in our case, the federal, state, and local governments all working together. We're all in this together. We're not going to beat this virus without everybody's hard work and cooperation. But we've been really focused on clear, honest, direct communication. Our decision making has all been based on the facts and the science. We've put together some of the smartest scientists and doctors in the world, many of whom are in our state. We're the headquarters of the NIH, the FDA, Johns Hopkins University, and a number of other world-renowned medical science institutions, and we've been tapping into those folks to try to make the best decisions. We're now moving on to trying to slowly, safely, and gradually reopen our economy, because that's the next crisis we're all dealing with: unemployment, business failure, the fact that we had to take these aggressive steps to shut down to stop the virus. And we're now in the phase where we're beginning that slow, gradual, and safe reopening, which I think many of you are dealing with as well. So I just want to thank all of you for all the wonderful, incredible work that you're each doing in your cities. And I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to come on to represent the National Governors Association and my fellow governors in America. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor, and we wish you the best of luck and also hope for peace to return to the cities of the USA, including Baltimore. Thank you very much for joining us. Next, we will hear about the example of Jakarta from Governor Anies Baswedan. May overall was the toughest month yet for the largest country in Southeast Asia, but Jakarta seems to have turned the corner, with the number of cases decreasing since passing a peak in mid-May. Governor, I understand that you have some visual material prepared as well. If the PDF is ready, I will turn the floor over to you now.
Thank you. First of all, allow me to express my appreciation for the invite to join this important gathering of leaders across the globe, especially my appreciation to Mayor Park, a very good friend of ours and one of our role model for leadership in the cities, and for all governors, mayors whom we admire. Allow me at this moment to share a little bit of our experience. Yes, indeed, Jakarta experienced quite a trying times since the beginning of March. We had cases of COVID in the large number at the beginning of March, and almost 80% of cases at that time was in Jakarta. And our numbers back then were so high that we were quite concerned. We started to adopt large-scale social measures in the beginning of mid of March. We closed our schools. We started to do all this, the tracing, testing, as well as treatment. Quite similar approach to what many of us all have been doing during this pandemic. But what I would like to share here is more of how should we look forward? I mean, we all have our experience in dealing with the pandemic, and I think it is very important for us now to look what's beyond this pandemic. In the past 6 months, many of us were struggling to save our fellow citizens, to make sure that we can get back to our life again and a new normal. But allow me in this opportunity to share some thought regarding how do we move forward. Jakarta, starting this weekend, we will start easing up our large-scale social distancing measures. But what's also important, during this period of 3 months, we experienced problems, but also we have experienced opportunities. The problems is at least two. Number one, we have health crisis. Number two, we have economic crisis. I think all of us experience that. But on the other hand, we experience a digital life breakthrough. And also, we experience a greener environment. This meeting could have been done a year ago, could have been done 6 months ago, but we didn't do it. We had conventional gathering of mayors in a certain area, in certain cities at certain times. But because of this pandemic, suddenly we started to see new opportunities. Digital life breakthrough, and also greener environment. For us in Jakarta, air pollution is one of our challenge. And suddenly, in the past 3 months, we experienced blue sky every day. And people started to realize, so this is what it feels when we have greener economy. This is what it feels when we have implemented sustainable economic development. So this crisis, the health crisis, the economic crisis, those are issues that we need to tackle, but also our populations is experiencing transformations that we never expected a few months ago. So now, I think it's for all of us to start sharing new values about how we manage our cities. In the past, for example, in a developing country like ours, a megapolitan like Jakarta, we were developed through car-oriented development, minimum public transport. And then we transform ourselves from car-oriented development into transit-oriented development. We built public transport, we built stations, we built properties surrounding the station. So transit-oriented development is our approach. But now, I think we need to start to think of the next step. From car-oriented development to transit-oriented development. And then next, I think we will need to move into digital-oriented development. That may be the future we need to anticipate. And then in the past, our approach was monocentric development. We have transformed ourselves into polycentric development. I think in the future, we may be heading into microcentric development. And about services that we provided to our citizens. We move from under-provided basic services into well-provided basic services. But given this pandemic, what's needed is not only well-provided basic services, but what's needed is resilient urban services. It's a transformations that we need to undergo given the pandemic that we experience. Ini bisa ditunjukin. And if I may share some of the slides about these transformations, and I think let's see if we can get the bukan itu slide-nya di sini. Nggak bisa ya? Okay. Let's just focus on me sharing the instead of the slide. Let me just explain because there is a technicality issue here. But again, I think we need to look beyond the COVID pandemic. We need to start seeing this as an opportunity to transform how we lead a city, and also to transform the city itself to anticipate similar challenges that may come up in the future. So if I may put this in sequence, we need to, number one, make sure that this is a pandemic-proof city. And then we step forward one more step to resilient to crisis city, a digitally advanced city, and sustainable and livable city. So the approach that we need to undertake is somewhat different. This pandemic, for some reasons, have given us an opportunity to make that transformations. And the other aspect that I'd like to share, based on our experience in Jakarta, when we started to adopt large-scale social measures, that means restrictions of economic activity, restrictions to social and cultural activities. And because of that, we suffer loss of incomes to many of our populations. For those who have no savings, this is an issue. Of course, government provide support, government provide subsidies. However, we take this opportunity to introduce large-scale social solidarity programs. So on the one hand, we have social distancing measures being adopted, but on the other hand, we adopted a social solidarity program in a large scale. And the message is that I call for the business leaders in Jakarta. I don't call them to donate to our populations, but we call them for duty. And the message goes along this line. Jakarta has given us so much. Now Jakarta needs you. And our message is, let's pay back to our city. Let's give back what has been given to you from our city. So the calling is a calling for duty to give back to our cities. And we were overwhelmed by the response. We have charity organizations that we invited them to participate, to channel people that would like to contribute, to support our fellow citizens. What happened is these charity organizations has reported to us that the number of donors have increased more than 220%, even though the amount of donations is much smaller than when it was 100% of donors. So the numbers of donors increase, but the amount of donations significantly reduced because of the economic crisis. But the message is this: social distancing doesn't mean distancing between people, distancing between socioeconomic class, but it becomes a measures of building solidarity within the city. And I think this is something that we need to strengthen after we completed our approach in the next week. We would like to make sure that the solidarity we're building in the past 2-3 months is something that we can pave stronger to the future. So those are some of our experience. If I may summarize, this has been a crisis of health and crisis of economic, but also provided us with opportunity to transform our city, to transform our leadership, and we need to look toward the futures where digital-oriented development may be the way to the future. Microcentric development is perhaps the approach in spatial planning, and we need to move from simply providing basic services to our citizens. We need to move into resilient urban services that we provide to our citizens. And the last point is social distancing measures that is adopted in the large scale need to be paired with large-scale social solidarity. If that is able to be done, I think we will be seeing a better cities, stronger cities, not only for us who have experienced this pandemic, but also to all cities across the globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing Jakarta's experience and also for summarizing your presentation. Thank you very much, Governor. And last but not least, I would like to invite Mayor Sergei Sobyanin of Moscow to present his city's response to COVID-19. After more than 2 months of lockdown, measures are starting to be eased now, and Moscow residents are allowed to go for a walk starting yesterday. So Mayor Sobyanin, you have the floor.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Our governor, mayor of Jakarta, he told us about solidarity. I can see here on the screen people, and they took this responsibility to fight COVID-19, to fight in the cities where they rule, and they are heads of the cities. These are the people who felt this pain and suffering of the people who live there, who faced this disaster. What's more, they did their best to make effective efforts and to overcome the peak of coronavirus. This is solidarity. This is solidarity of people who overcame the most difficult path. Moscow is the biggest city in Russia, the biggest mega city in the world and in Europe. Here we have almost 20 million people living, and traditionally it is a center where roads are crossing from the east and from the west, from the north parts and from the south parts. When we had here COVID-19, when it just started, lots of people, foreigners, came back to Moscow. And sure, when they came from territories which were affected by this epidemic. But because of the measures that we have taken, the stringent measures, we were very successful and we prolonged this period. We didn't have the peak period when most cities had. It gave us opportunity. We managed to learn from other cities. We saw what are the measures that were implemented in Europe, in United States, in Middle East. We looked at their hospitals, what were the restrictions, what was effective, what was not, and we take it into consideration every time when we work with it. We formed the biggest medical support system, and we have more than 40,000 available beds for it. It is an effective system, and we had all that was necessary to provide help for our citizens. What's more, we had outpatient clinics, and they were equipped with the best equipment to diagnose COVID-19. We created necessary test system, and today we have all the capabilities. So during one day we can have 58,000 classic tests. We formed clinical committee, and the leading experts from Moscow are a part of this effort, and they developed state-of-the-art technologies to treat it. We supported all patients who faced coronavirus and people who were at risk. It allowed us to flatten the curve. We didn't have the peak numbers, and our systems were not overloaded. So these capacities that we created in Moscow, 55% of them, they were not used. The situation that we have, we avoided the worst scenario. And the work during this period allowed us to form clear techniques and directions which we follow. First of all, our citizens are responsible, and they understand that it is their personal health and it is the health of people who they communicate with and meet on the streets. It is very important. And I would like to say that I agree with the mayor of Seoul, Park Won-soon, that it is the most important part when we fight with COVID-19. People, they should be responsible. The second direction of work, when our employees understand their responsibilities, they realize that it's not maybe necessary to close all enterprises, but they had this clear picture that this pandemic, it's not about weeks, it's not about months, and we needed to provide our citizens with all the necessary services during this difficult periods of time. It will not be just 1 week, 1 month, it will be a few months, and they understood it, that we needed to adapt to this danger that we faced. So responsibility of employees, sanitary requirements to provide safe workplace, it is also very important. The third direction of work, our colleagues have already discussed it. This is the safety of public transport. We have not closed metro and public transport. We made it maximum comfortable for our citizens. We didn't want to create these situations when this public transport is overcrowded. We created this system to disinfect the transport, so they feel safe, and we wanted to avoid the infection spread. So all the basic enterprises and our transport, it was functioning during all the time. Every day, approximately 3 million people were commuting. 83 times lower than before, but still, this is a huge number of people. And we were functioning. And sure, what is also important, that we developed necessary methods how to treat patients, and as I told you before, new tablets, new methods were created, and we were analyzing all the cases that we have. When we had death, we were critically involved in it. We suggested new methods how to prevent new cases. We worked with the Ministry of Health, with the World Health Organization. This is a great experience that we had, and we now know how to save lives of other people based on this work that we have done. Today in Moscow and in our country, in Russia, we develop 3 vaccines. They are very promising. In our city, we have clinical trials, and we see that it is a very effective work, and we hope that in autumn we'll have new portions of vaccines, and it will be the grounds for our further work to fight COVID. But before this period, we need to provide special regime for our citizens so they are safe in our city, so they can work safely, so they can commute safely, so our city is alive and prosperous. It is true that Moscow, we see that more and more enterprises are working and opening. We see that non-food retail, food retail, it is coming back to work. Construction, industries. Today, 80% of economy in Moscow resumed back to work. But still, we do understand that this pandemic, when we compare it to local disease right now, it's different. The whole world is facing this danger, and we all have this responsibility to prevent further spread. We are all responsible, and only together we need to join our efforts, and only with this we can win. Thank you, colleagues, for this communication. It's crucially important. It is always important, but now it is even more important because today we are under these circumstances. Sometimes the situation is tragic in most of the cities. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sobyanin, for sharing Moscow and Muscovites' various efforts regarding COVID-19. We will now continue with an open discussion for other participating mayors and governors. The remarks will be made in the order of those who applied in advance. And if you also have some visual slides ready, please have them on standby. May I also remind all speakers to keep their remarks within 2 minutes so that we have time for all 16 cities. First, I would like to ask the mayor of Bilbao of Spain, Juan Mari Aburto, to deliver his remarks. The floor is yours, Mayor.
Hello, everybody, and good afternoon from Bilbao. Thank you, Mr. Park, my friend, for this initiative that tries to enforce collaborative relations among cities. It's a great opportunity to show how cities have been on the front line of the fight against COVID-19 and have been key actors, not only in the emergency phase, but also in the recovery and the new normal we are already going through. What we have been through in recent months has shown us how important it is to work together, to cooperate. Peer learning from each other has been more necessary than ever to confront this critical situation. Many questions and uncertainties need to be addressed as cities emerge from pandemic. Mobility, digital divide, social cohesion, employment, sustainability, education, health. Answering these questions will determine whether cities can better adapt and become more resilient. This crisis has brought to light that some groups of citizens are more vulnerable, and our societies need not only to protect them, but also to empower them so as not to leave them behind. Government, but by putting people at the center, is now imperative. Emerging vulnerabilities can only be tackled by a recovery planning that strives to put equity, economy, and climate action at the center of their approaches. In this sense, the city of Bilbao is committed, and our governance is based on a project we have been working on for years. We call it Bilbao City of Values. This initiative has been implemented by Bilbao City Council, taking into consideration the voice of citizens and of different entities in the city. It is an innovative project which intends to continue with the construction of the city from a shared framework of values provided by society as a whole, where values play a strategic role as a driver of more sustainable development in these threefold: social, environmental, and economic. We will be happy to share our experience with all the cities. In this regard, I'd like to convey to all the mayors and authorities that you can count on Bilbao to work shoulder to shoulder to build better cities for the future.
Thank you very much. We were supposed to connect with Montreal. Unfortunately, we're going to try to retry that later. For now, I would like to call upon the mayor of Ankara, Turkey, Mansour Yabashi, to deliver his statement. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Colleagues, first of all, on behalf of the people of Ankara and myself, I would like to extend my sincere respects and greetings to you from the capital of Turkey. I'm glad to come together with my esteemed colleagues on the occasion of Global Cities Summit against COVID-19, with the initiatives of my dear friend, Mr. Park, the mayor of Seoul. Within this period, Seoul's measures and success against COVID-19 outbreak have set an example to the cities all over the world. I also congratulate them both for organizing this online meeting and their exemplary work during the pandemic. Until now, many problems concerning the whole world, such as global warming, climate change, hunger, poverty, and wars, have not affected everyone without any discrimination like the COVID-19 outbreak had. Today, we are facing a very new situation. We have to act both quickly and together. For this reason, I attach great importance to every effort to prevent the spread of the outbreak and save the lives of more people. It is also a great honor and privilege for me to find an opportunity to come together with my esteemed colleagues from various continents of the world and discuss what we can do in the future. After the outbreak became global, as Ankara Metropolitan Municipality, we have implemented a series of globally known measures, such as public transport measures, disinfection of common areas and public buildings, closure of parks, rearrangement of business hours, postponement of rental payments, water bill discounts, flexible working, etc. However, I would like to share some of our outstanding implementations with you here. Since the majority of those, unfortunately, who died in the outbreak were people aged 65 and over, we called for them to stay at home, and by following this call, our government imposed a curfew on these people. This measure was one of the reasons why the death rate is quite low in Turkey. We allocated all of our municipal resources other than the urgent and compulsory expenditures to social aids. Within this period, not only the poor but also the employees and small businesses in the middle income group were adversely affected. Both financial and food aid was provided to these people through the crisis desk we established, and their hygiene and other needs were fulfilled. The need for masks and disinfectants that emerged with the outbreak were satisfied by producing them in the workshops established by our municipality. On the one hand, employment was provided to those who lost their jobs, and on the other hand, these products were distributed to the public and to our employees with free of charge. By the means of the One Heart campaign we launched during outbreak, citizens and non-governmental organizations of Ankara have been encouraged to donate. Thereby, approximately $5 million have been collected until today. Within the scope of combating against coronavirus, we have established a platform called Capital's Initiative for COVID-19, emphasizing local solutions for global problems, and asked more than 40 capital cities and our sister cities to share their measures and experiences. My dear colleagues, this outbreak once again reminded us the importance of acting together, solidarity, cooperation and common mind without any discrimination. As cities where more than half of the world population lives, we need to work together and cooperate to solve the economic and social problems that will emerge after the epidemic in the next period. In this context, the city of Ankara will be honored to be a part of the Global Cities Network, planned to be established under the leadership of Seoul Municipality and aiming for the solidarity of the cities against future outbreaks. While thanking my dear friend Mr. Park for hosting this online meeting once again, I extend my respects and warm greetings to you and wish to be together face to face on healthier and more beautiful days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we head to Mongolia, where we have the mayor of Ulaanbaatar, Amarsehang Sainbuyang, on standby. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Good evening, all. It's my great pleasure to participate in this conference. On behalf of our citizens, I would like to express our warmest greetings to all of you, especially to the leading mayors and governors of the international cities worldwide who are attending in this global summit. As we all know, COVID-19 has spread to more than 200 countries and their cities. According to international experts, this dangerous pandemic is likely to be continued during the summer and autumn and also during the winter. So the cities around the globe must unite and take all the necessary actions against this disease by using all the available resources and also continue to help one another, but in an efficient and in a better way. So these cities and their citizens around the globe cannot be isolated and also distanced for a long time yet. So this will also allow us to prevent and prepare for any other unknown disease that might threaten our lives in the future that could be worse than the existing COVID-19. Taking this opportunity, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Mr. Bhagwan Sung, the mayor of Seoul City, for initiating and also organizing and coordinating this important global summit for COVID-19 prevention and also actions that need to be taken. And also it's important for us to share case and experience and measures taken by global cities for preventing, reducing, and also combating this spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. So since it's spread in China, it started in the beginning of last January, the city of Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia, is facing serious challenges of the disease, including economic crisis, unemployment, and market slowdown, and also delay of some national projects. This situation is continuing longer than we expected, and also now it's certain that it may continue even longer. However, we all know it's not only the city that we are being in this situation, but the whole world, the entire population around the world is being in this difficult situation. And we don't know exactly when, how this pandemic will slow down and we will be able to overcome this problem. As you all know, Mongolia is a very high-risk country to this spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we had to respond quickly to the pandemic to make some rapid decisions, actions. And the Ministry of Health, the government of Mongolia, and my administration has been taking all the necessary actions to prevent it from spreading. So we took some necessary actions on a timely manner. As a result, we had no transmission and approved case locally, but currently we have 185 cases approved, all coming with the citizens coming from abroad and also foreigners. So as the chairman of the Emergency Commission of the capital city, I needed to make some more decisions with my team, and also my administration has been taking all appropriate steps and actions. And as a result, we have been very successful, and the result has been very promising. But the most important part of our action was the support of our citizens. So our citizens have been very supportive, and they're still very responsible at fulfilling their social responsibilities. So we're taking many steps and ordered our staffs to be more responsible and also very careful in analyzing and also taking all necessary actions in a timely manner to make sure that we are safe and keep staying safe. So in the past, we ordered all our staffs of my administration to wear face masks and also face cover, and also ordered the citizens to stay at home and keep social distance, and also advise one another to be more careful. And we took a number of actions, and that has been very promising. So we will keep continuing our effort to keep the city safe. So as you all know, we exchanged information and also ideas, and also the measures taken by our city, not only taken in this capital city, but in the other province of the Mongolia. We have 21 provinces, and all actions have been taken in different ways. So the most important thing we did in the past was in late January with the international organization, especially the International Organization for Migration, worked with the city to collect data and also register citizens' movement, especially for the incoming and outgoing traffics to be registered. So we were able to stop several cases coming to the city from different places and be able to prevent all these risks. So these was the things that we did. Currently, we have around over 4,000 people under supervision, but no confirmed case. So doing disinfecting in the streets and also the public areas and public transportation is one of the key works we have been doing. Besides the economic situation, we cannot leave behind. So that's why we have to also make some decisions, especially in the central government level. And also my administration is helping the industries and services to be opened and also run their businesses smoothly. But step by step, all these decisions need to be taken and restrictions to be released. So this is what we have been doing to keep the public more, safe. We have also other plans, but it's still exploring the opportunities to work with our friendship cities and also the other international organizations to be more efficient and effective. So it's very important that we keep exchanging experience and also the ideas, and we don't know what measures needed to be taken in the future, but keeping in touch with the cities, we would be able to, prevent this pandemic for time until all countries.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And now we're going to turn to the Mayor of Colombo of Sri Lanka, Rosie Senayake. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, my colleagues, the mayors, honorable governors. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to just brief you on the situation in Colombo. Let me just brief you on how large the city is. The city of Colombo is spread across an area of 37.31 kilometers and has a 750 resident population and a 1 million population of daily migrants. It is the commercial capital of the country. The first positive COVID-19 Sri Lankan national was reported on the 11th of March, and the city reported its first case on the 12th of March. Total confirmed cases in Colombo has been 129. Total deaths in Colombo is 2. 0 community cases detected since the 2nd of May from Colombo. Total confirmed cases in Sri Lanka, 1,643. Total deaths in Sri Lanka, 11. Total recovered, 811. Colombo has done 3,700 PCR tests on communities. I wish we had more facilities and more PCR tests and the capacity to do more testing. Colombo has a very good surveillance strategy and now heading towards normalcy stage by stage, very cautiously. We have managed to identify clusters and contain them on time. Due to this, new cases have not been reported for a month. All recent reported cases are either returnees from foreign countries or perhaps cases reported from the quarantine centers. Our strategy has been proactive intervention to prevent COVID-19 within the city of Colombo and to prevent community transmission while maintaining uninterrupted essential services and providing relief to the underprivileged population in the city. Nearly 60% of the resident population of the city are poor and disadvantaged and depend on daily wages. They have been economically devastated by the lockdown. The council has taken measures to distribute dry ration to almost 50,000 families. The council has also made poor relief payment to over 12,000 persons in this time. The city's indigenous medicine, the Ayurvedic department, has distributed specific indigenous concoctions to boost the immunity of the residents. The council has taken measures to disinfect the staff returning to work daily by instilling a steam chamber with traditional antiseptic herbs to prevent the infection entering the council premises. Even though this has been an unprecedented challenge, I have been overwhelmed by the unparalleled risks that the council staff have undergone and the dedication they have shown to the work they do. This dedication to duty has undoubtedly helped mitigate the spread of the virus and provided relief to the city's residents. I must also note that unstinted cooperation from all the council members, notwithstanding political differences, in approving all the funding requirements for these measures. Finally, I must state that our success has been made possible by the unstinted cooperation and assistance of the central government and all agencies, including the Health Ministry and all line ministries, also the police and the armed forces. A crisis like this has shown that wonders we can do when we work together. I am so glad that we as cities are coming together to learn about our experiences and to share experiences, plus points and the minuses. There was much that I learned from the other cities and their experiences that they shared. So this is a fantastic opportunity and a platform. So thank you very much. Especially, I would like to thank the Mayor of Seoul for including Colombo into this dialogue, into this platform. I think this should be a continuous dialogue and a platform where we share, learn, and also help each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. And before we go to our next speaker, I'd like to remind all of our speakers, please, to try to stay within the 2-minute limit. We are running over time and we have many of your colleagues still waiting. So once again, please keep your remarks to under 2 minutes. Next, I'd like to call the Mayor of Tashkent of Uzbekistan, Jahongir Artukhojayev. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to especially thank you for inviting me to this video conference, dear Mr. Park Monsoon. Of course, I think that a discussion, exchange of experiences and views in such a format is very important to overcome this crisis faster. Dear colleagues, I would like to inform you about the current situation regarding the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent in particular, as well as our work on preventing the spread of the virus in Tashkent and mitigation of its consequences. In order to prevent the spread of coronavirus infection in Uzbekistan, a special commission chaired by the Prime Minister of the country was established. According to the decision of the special commission, the quarantine regime was declared in the territory of the Republic, including the city of Tashkent, from March 16, 2020. To fully handle the situation in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent, an interdisciplinary response office was established and the following work was done. Public and non-public organizations have been shifted to operate their main activities to the remote online system. Public transport was restricted. Public places, sport facilities were closed. All types of public cultural, educational and sports events were suspended. All educational institutions were transferred to the distance learning system. A special quarantine facility with 20,000 beds and equipped with all conditions was built and put into operation in 8 days to put the citizens who had contact with the patients under quarantine. 4 hospitals in Tashkent have been adapted to treat patients with COVID-19 virus. From May 8, the territory of the Republic, including the territory of Tashkent, was divided into 3 categories: red, yellow and green. Quarantine requirements began to be gradually released depending on the category of area. The city of Tashkent is included into the yellow category. The following activities were allowed to operate in the yellow area in strict compliance with the quarantine requirements. They are as follows. They are the industries, construction facilities, large manufacturers, museums, art galleries, non-food jewelries, non-food marketplaces, jewelry stores and flower shops, barbershops and the beauty salons. Walking in parks and recreation areas from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. with no more than 2 people, of course, excluding attractions, fast food, courts and group trips. In order to prevent the spread of the second wave of coronavirus, the city has asked its citizens to use the masks during walking in all places, regardless of the category, whether it's red, yellow or green, maintaining its social distance of 2 meters, measuring body temperature at the entrance to indoor buildings, disinfection with the antiseptics. At present, a total of 14,905 citizens are placed under quarantine at the quarantine center. The number of coronavirus patients in Uzbekistan as of today makes 3,718 people, with the number of deaths 15. In Tashkent, we have good measures being implemented in order to ensure the sustainable economy various privileges and preferences are also granted by based on the presidential decrees to the enterprises and business entities. These include deferrals of tax payments, installment payments, exemption from certain types of taxes for a certain period of time, customs benefits for import and export, exemption of small businesses from land and property taxes until September 1. Our state provides a comprehensive support to the population in need of the social protection, so we provide such initiatives as the generosity and support, the free provision of food and medicine to the needy people, fairs in neighborhoods and districts, regular cultural and educational programs, concerts being broadcasted on TV, online lessons for school children and students, uninterrupted operation of the internet at home, and of course, delayed payments on the utilities. That's what we are actually doing now in order to make sure that the spread of coronavirus is under control and the social and economic life is maintained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to turn the floor over to the mayor of Lima, Peru, Jorge Muñoz Hueas. The floor is yours.
저게 안 나와. 스피커가. 안 들리는 것 같은데?
소리가 안 나오는 거예요?
한번 확인 한번 해보십시오.
Unfortunately, we are having some connection problems with the audio. We will try to return to the mayor of Lima once the connection is remade. For now, we will move on to Vietnam. The chairman of Hanoi People's Committee of Vietnam, Ung Nguyen Duc Trung, is on standby.
I'd like to thank Mayor Park of Seoul for hosting today's meeting through virtual teleconference. I thank other mayors and colleagues also taking part in today's event and sharing experiences, efforts, and valuable lessons in combating COVID-19. Recently, Vietnam has 328 infected cases, and 223 of which have been cured, and there has been no fatality. Hanoi has 114 infected cases, 113 have been cured, and it is now 48 days since our last confirmed new positive case. I'd like to share a few experiences and efforts that we have exercised. From very early on in the pandemic, Vietnamese leaders have called out our entire nation to remain vigilant and vigorous in combating COVID-19. The consistent policy is to combat the pandemic as though an enemy. We accept short-term economic losses to protect the lives and health of our people. It is thanks to this very prompt, timely, and appropriate guidance that have fostered faith, solidarity, and consensus from the whole political system, joining hands in the fight against the pandemic. We also implemented very detailed and very speedy contact tracing. Persons in direct contacts are quarantined either at medical facilities or military barracks. Persons in indirect contacts are self-quarantined at home under the strict supervision from the community and local healthcare services. Apart from early response and contact tracing, we also provided widespread information on a transparent basis to our people via multiple platforms. We also used the Smart City app to manage the quarantine individuals and provide free treatments, free services to the quarantine people and the positive cases. These uniform, robust measures are the fundamental factors contributing to Vietnam's and Hanoi's success in the fight against COVID-19 that we wish to share with you all today. Hanoi agrees with the need to establish cooperation between municipalities to share information. This will be among the most effective ways to cope with COVID-19. It will also be a new opportunity to further collaboration in economic remedies and recovery as caused by the pandemic. Once again, I'd like to thank the Mayor of Seoul, and I'd like to thank all the mayors around the world for participating here today.
Thank you very much, Chairman. We are now going to try to reconnect with the Mayor of Lima, hopefully this time with some audio. Mayor? Unfortunately, we're still not hearing you. We can see you just fine. Unfortunately, we're going to try to come back to you, Mayor Weas. Let me move on for now. We're now going to connect with the Deputy Mayor for Human Affairs of Budapest of Hungary, Elizabeth Nemes. Deputy Mayor, the floor is yours.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is a very famous saying, we don't know the source, which goes like, we need some time in order to fight difficulties, but we need a bit more time to fight against the impossible. In the last months, all of the responsible leaders have been working for more time. This was the situation here. Every small battle had to be won, and we were just focusing on the day after, and this is the foresight that we had. We are very fortunate because Budapest and the Budapest citizens performed very well. They were very disciplined in adhering to the rules concerning quarantine, concerning hygiene, aiming at fighting COVID-19 and the spread. There was patience and there was discipline, and they really were very competent in social cooperation and the political cooperation, the political leaders cooperating with us. In the world and in the major cities, we had a lot of problems here as well with elderly shelters. And this was not only the elderly shelters, but also the healthcare professionals who were most exposed. And Budapest, the situation was similar. In this respect, the city had to stop for 2.5 months. Schools closed down, workplaces, most of the workplaces closed down. Families had to be reorganized, and there was an increase in unemployment. It is a Hungarian specificity that in this situation, we could not really get the central government and the municipalities closer to one another because the Hungarian government had the law, the act that provided them the powers to act however they wanted, but they were also ruling information and information provision, and that also monopolized the opportunity of decision making. In Budapest, we had to prepare a program for restart. And this focuses on solidarity, economic assistance and help. We are increasing biking and increasing pedestrian traffic and the opportunities thereof. The new Budapest Deal program is providing for the boost of the economy. That is the aim, which is going to focus on climate change and social problems alike. This program is obviously available to you. We are very pleased, we'll be very pleased to share this with you. We didn't really expect such a pandemic of a global extent, but we have no any other opportunity just to realize the potential, the opportunity that is here in the crisis. We have to focus more on one another. We have to focus more on our microenvironment. We have to be more flexible, and we have to be healthier. The pandemic has shown that we are capable of living in a more conscious manner and be caring more for one another. And this thought has to be part of our new urban policy in the future as well. And we would like to join the initiative of the Mayor of Seoul. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. And now we turn to the Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, India, Manish Sisodia.
Thank you very much, and hello from Delhi. I would like to thank Mr. Park
Honorable Mayor of Seoul and Seoul government for this wonderful opportunity to be part of this CAC Global Summit. It's a great source of strength and information for us to hear from around the world how the big cities, the leaders are coping up with this biggest challenge that humanity has faced. As far as Delhi is concerned, we got our first case on 2nd March this year, and from that day till date we have got almost 20,000 cases in the city of affected citizens. But I can say that number of cases is increasing, and right now the number of cases are getting doubled every, we can say, 12 to 13 days. As the consequences of those cases, we made difficult decision to align with the nationwide lockdown from March 23. And it was a huge challenge for the people. It was extremely important to curb the spread of COVID. The total lockdown actually enabled us to spread awareness of the virus among the citizens and strengthen our health infrastructure also to effectively battle the disease. Today in Delhi, when we are unlocking the city, we are prepared with the medical facilities, having an understanding about the behavior of the virus and its spread so far. The number of infected people, as I said, is doubling every 13 days almost, but the good thing is that almost similar number of people are recovering. The entire administrative machinery has learned preemptive measures to contain the spread, conduct contact tracing, and provide immediate support to the affected people. There is no doubt that the poor and vulnerable segment has been the worst affected in the lockdown period. Since the lockdown was announced, the government of Delhi is providing nutritious meals to almost 1 million people twice a day. School campuses have been translated into food shelters and halfway homes. What gives me immense pleasure is by sharing that Delhi government has worked on education also and has done its best to minimize the damage, because we know today or tomorrow we'll find the vaccine for the virus, but the kind of damage that we all are facing in the field of education and economy, it would be hard for any country to find a vaccine for that, to cover that damage, and that's very important. That's why we have been focusing during the lockdown also and while dealing with the epidemic to continue the education. We have closed the schools, but the online facilities have been actually used widely. Similarly, we are now focusing on economy. Also, we are focusing to get back the economy to on track. We can't remain locked down anymore because the potential suffering that people will face due to economic adversity could be as bad, if not worse, than the hardship caused by COVID. So Delhi has begun unlocking itself to face the challenges that lie ahead. We are confident that we will be able to effectively handle any possible increase in COVID cases while ensuring that economic activities is also restored in the city in a planned, phased manner. I am hopeful that together we will overcome these difficult times, and thank you for your cooperation. Delhi would love to be part of any initiative that Honorable Mayor of Seoul has announced under the banners of Cities Alliance Against Pandemic. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. And now we turn to the Mayor of Guayaquil, Ecuador, Cynthia Viteri. The floor is yours. Unfortunately, we seem to be having some audio problems once again. Yes, we cannot hear you, Mayor. We will try to return to you at a later time. For now, let me move on to the Mayor of Kyiv of Ukraine, Vitaly Klitschko. Mayor, if you're ready.
Exchange experience with this dangerous infection. It's actually right now a challenge for every one of us, for every citizens of our city. And by the way, right now, short feedback in Kyiv, one of the largest cities of East Europe. Right now, we have over 3 million citizens. We actually sister city with Wuhan, was starting this infection, COVID-19, and immediately we received the full information from our colleagues and all advice what we have to do. We are one of the first beginning strange rules. We stopped lessons in the school, preschools. First time in our history we stopped our subway, first time in 60 years, and whole public transportation. Actually, we live last 2 months in strange rules in Kyiv, and the result right now over 3 million citizens. We have a little bit more than 3,000 cases, infected people in our hometown, and 70 people died from this virus. Actually, right now, the huge challenge for us, because we right now coming here to make these rules much softer, because they from one side the health and life of the people, from another side the economy impact what people have from quarantine. Actually, we see right now the waves of infected people come down. We actually last week have great numbers, much more people recovered than infected. It's actually great news. We hope we keeping this situation in the control. But let's see, we're talking with a lot of experts. They told to us, please be careful, because this can be many waves of coronavirus. By the way, it's great to exchange experiences, very important. Never make mistakes for one cities or countries, and learn a lot, study a lot from success story, and also learning from mistakes what already did. Actually, I don't want to complain. Actually, in our hometown under control, we receive every day information from our colleagues, from experts, from medical institutes, from the people around the world who actually are fighting against this infection around the world. And we starting right now, our public transportation is starting to work. We're very careful and very soft to reduce our strange rules in our hometown, and coming right now to normal life, slowly to normal life. It's actually risk is here, and we hope the next challenges what we have, have under control. It will be I will be very happy to exchange our experience with our colleagues, to explain how it works, with personal contact to everyone, always open and ready to give the information what we're doing exactly. I wish success in this fight against this pandemic. Stay healthy. It's very important, which is right now in present time. Stay healthy, and every citizens of your city also have to be healthy. Right now, the the fight is not over. We have a lot of challenges. The main challenge for every one of us, the economic impact of economic crisis, and also from the pandemic, in the fight against coronavirus. We're healthy and always open to exchange our experience, our information, what we're doing, and also we'll be very happy to receive the information from our colleagues.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn to the Vice Mayor for Health and Education of Athens in Greece, Emmanuel Kalampoukas. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, dear Mayor of Seoul, thank you very much for the invitation today. That's a great opportunity for us to share our experience. On behalf of the Mayor of Kostas Bakoyannis, I would like to give our main measures that we did take as Athens, the capital of Greece, and that we did in order to control the COVID-19 pandemic. First of all, I would like to give you some data regarding Athens demographic. Athens is the capital of Greece. It officially has 1 million population, and with the suburbs, almost 4 million population. So it's the biggest city in Greece, and the problem was quite huge at the beginning. It's almost now 2 months since we had to apply social isolation. We did very well globally. Now we have almost no more than 200 deaths from COVID-19, and the last few days we have only 2 or 3 cases confirmed by testing from COVID-19 disease. We did work alongside with the central government. We did well. We gave, and we all give every day, a titanic fight, and we had to give, as everyone said, a double fight, a fight for the disease and a fight for the economic impact. So initially, very briefly, I would like to present all the measures that we did take to fight this pandemic. First of all, we had to give our health clinic from the 5th district of Athens to the central government to be offered as a control area for COVID-19. So this is where we did the testing, this is where we did the tracing, and for the individuals that have been affected from the disease. We did, as capital of Athens, we did voluntary blood transfusions, and we had to introduce support hotlines for those affected from the disease in order to support isolation, in order to support the families that had psychological issues, the families that had problems with their children. We did take hundreds of measures for total sanitation for Athens by disinfecting public areas, schools, hospitals, and all health clinics in our district. We had also, in order to support the economy and to ameliorate the impact from the COVID-19, we had to take some measures for that. So in order to give the opportunity for those that stayed at home, that couldn't go to work, we have to reconstruct from the beginning our services so everyone can have the opportunity from a distance to find solution to their problem. We gave plenty of economic reliefs, such as tax reliefs to those affected from the disease and from those that will be affected in the near future. More or less, we had to we introduced 2 new structures. That was a very, very big step from our city, from our mayor, Kostas Bakoyannis, because we, in a very, very short period of time, we made from 0 point a homeless center for those that had need to find some rest, to find somewhere where they can sleep. We did also made from the beginning a new transitional host structure for those affected, for those that have been suffered from drug addiction. So very briefly, these are the measures we did take as Athens, as the capital of Greece. At the moment, we're doing very well, and we're planning to open our city, our country, to tourists. And we feel that we have to do more in order to fight the pandemic if that comes again in the near future. Thank you very much again for giving us the opportunity to present our experience.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And now I'd like to ask the Mayor of Toronto, Canada, John Tory, to please take the floor. Mayor Tory, unfortunately, we are not connecting with you audio-wise. Could you please make sure that your microphone is on once again?
How about that? Is that better?
Yes, we are connected with you now, yes.
Well, good. And good day, and thank you very much for having us on, and thank you to Mayor Park for organizing this, and to Seoul. Toronto is a city of 3 million people in Canada, of course, sitting within a region of about 7 million people, and we've had experience with the pandemic, as many others have, and I won't repeat all the different things that done similar we have done, but I will talk a little bit about the challenge that we faced in dealing with some of our vulnerable populations. In particular, we have really taken extraordinary measures to try to make sure that our homeless populations were protected and supported during the pandemic. And this included, for example, the support with medical support and other kinds of support in hotels. Ended up tested positive for COVID-19, but who were themselves homeless. So they had nowhere, obviously, to go to isolate themselves. These have worked out very well in the context of being supportive of and achieving the objective of isolating people. We have repurposed apartment buildings that were empty and slated for demolition and repurposed other housing units to house hundreds of people who were either in encampments where they were unsafe and where it was unsafe for public health, or were in shelters where we've had to move a total of 3,000 people from our shelter system because of physical distancing requirements, where the shelters before just didn't have the 2 meters between people that we had. We also have had to set up quite an extensive food security program in addition to what we already had. So, for example, we've established, I think it's 11 food banks in public libraries, and they've given us some space. The libraries themselves are closed, but we gave over space in those libraries to people who needed needed food security on a more widespread basis. I'll just conclude by saying, as of this moment, our 2 biggest challenges as we begin to reopen the city, watching for the numbers to continue to improve, are, I think in this order, first, making sure we can have the public transit system cope with the traffic that will come back. We were moving 1.8 million passengers per day. That dropped down to about 25% of the normal passenger load. And as we come up towards 30 and just past 30, that's when we will run out of the opportunity to physically distance people on the vehicles, the trains, the streetcars, and the buses. And so we have to find ways to achieve that. Staggering work hours. We're talking to the biggest 25 employers about even changing the time when they have people come back to work and continue with the teleworking. And then the second challenge is childcare. Childcare, similarly, there are going to be requirements imposed on childcare centers in terms of physical distancing and the size of the population in those centers that are going to be challenging for us in terms of facilities that can't easily expand their space or that can't easily take more staff in within the current economic model. So those are some of the things we're doing, but I found it very useful, and I do appreciate the efforts of Seoul and the other cities to share their information with us, and we're more than happy to share any of the initiatives that we've undertaken during this time, because of course we all know we're going to be in this world for some time to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tory. And now I'd like to go to San Antonio in the USA. We have the Mayor, Ron Nirenberg, on standby. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Well, good day, everyone. Thank you for having me, and my thanks to Seoul Mayor Park for having me as well. The city of San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the United States, and I serve also as the chairman of Sister Cities International, which is an organization devoted to partnership with thousands of American cities and our counterparts in many of your countries. Our city and San Antonio was the site of some of the original evacuation missions of American travelers. We had our first case of COVID-19 in our community on March 13th, which was also the same day that I worked with the community to begin to limit activities, which eventually resulted in, a week later, a shelter-in-place order. Since then, we have been working very aggressively on contact tracing, testing, isolation, and all the protocols that our health professionals recommended for containment. And we have been one of the strongest cities, I would say, in terms of our infection rate per capita. We've done quite well. We've had, since then, among a population of 1.9 million, we've had 3,000 reported cases and 75 fatalities. I would say the most important weapon that we have had to fight the pandemic here in San Antonio, and I think it's true everywhere else, is public trust. There is obviously a penchant for politicization of the pandemic, and there's no, it's not different here, certainly in a city in Texas. But we have, from the very start, made sure to put our public health professionals, our medical experts, in front of the public with the information and data people need to make informed decisions to protect the health of their families and their neighbors and their businesses. And in doing so, we've been able to rise above the politics and the partisanship that we've seen play out in the United States and elsewhere. So I'm very grateful for that. As we begin to open up now in San Antonio, I put together a team of our best medical experts to set the conditions by which we can open safely. And we have been watching the data vigilantly. And so far, we are doing quite well. Our focus now is shifting to restore and rebuild a more resilient community, because San Antonio, as an urban city, has also faced some extraordinary underlying health conditions of our own with regard to social inequality and poverty. So over the next few weeks, we're rolling out a plan to address some of the serious underlying issues of poverty. As we begin to rebuild, we're hoping to build a foundation that's stronger, that people have access to economic opportunity, to health and safety as we move forward into the post-pandemic era. Thank you very much for having us. I look forward to seeing you in San Antonio.
Thank you very much. And now we are going to try to reconnect with Lima once again. Hopefully the third time will be the charm. Mayor Jorge Munoz Hueas, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this third opportunity to reconnect. I would like to say, Mr. Park Wonson, thank you very much for this good initiative to launch the CAC, Cities Against COVID. The evidence of the pandemic in Peru began on March 6 with the identification of patient 0. This fact and the spread of the virus COVID-19 led the central government to declare a state of national emergency on March 15, forcing the population to change their way of life with restrictive measures such as compulsory social isolation, social distance, and then the use of masks in the public places. In parallel to this decision, as part of the national strategy, the government started several actions such as improvement of the health system, the implementation of temporary shelters spaces, distribution of subsidies, and providing food to the most vulnerable areas of the country. Although all these measures were timely and bold, the reality of the country has not made it possible to stop the virus. And today, at the 79th day of the emergency, we have reached a figure of more than 164,000 positive cases and around 5,000 people die in Peru, in which the highest number of contagions are in Lima, exceeding 100,000 positive cases and more than 1,700 dead. Recall that Lima concentrates more than 30% of the national population. It has also a high level of informality, as well as problems in infrastructure, equipment, and inefficient care of its public health system. A set of factors that not allow overcoming the pandemic in optional conditions. During the first weeks of the emergency, besides mandatory compliance of all preventive measures in the city, the municipality of Lima had as a priority, guaranteeing essential services for citizens such as public transport, the supply of food products at market prices, and the implementation of mobile food markets to avoid prices increases and crowds. At the same time, we focus on transforming spaces for temporary shelters to homeless, with an emblematic place called La Casa de Todos, the House of All. And also, we are also protecting women because we are suffering right now tremendous inter-houses violence because of the time that we are in condition. For the vulnerable low-income groups, we activate a humanitarian aid network with the support of the private sector to supply products of first necessity, reaching 1.5 million of beneficiaries within metropolitan Lima. At the beginning of this month, when the government began to relax its restrictive measures, a second stage began during the emergency, and the municipal government had to change the strategy also, with focus on territorial and inter-district work, where it was proposed to enhance the containment and mitigation of the virus, but also to develop an intelligent and gradual opening to the economy. Now we are working a lot in testing people in places where the vulnerable people is located. So we are now preparing for the new normality, although we did not reach the peak yet. We are facing the future where the imperative will be to rethink the city and to understand that this is an opportunity, as many people had said before. Thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this group of mayors and governors who work from cities against the COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, for your patience and persistence as well. Finally, we are going to reconnect once again with the Mayor of Guayaquil in Ecuador, Cynthia Viteri. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
¿Sí nos escuchan? ¿Nos están escuchando? Se dice que sí. Bueno, quisiera iniciar esta presentación agradeciendo a la alcalde de Seúl, por la invitación a la gente de ciudades contra COVID-19. Saludo a mis padres invitados, a los representantes de la sociedad civil y empresa privada, que también participan en este encuentro mundial. Nos encontramos frente a una pandemia que cambió el mundo entero. Es algo que no conocíamos. Es nuestra responsabilidad adaptarnos a una nueva realidad. A partir de esto y optimizar al máximo la administración en nuestras ciudades, con enfoque de solidaridad y cooperación global. Como alcaldesa de Guayaquil, Ecuador, puedo dar fe de aquello. Guayaquil, la perla del Pacífico, fue una de las ciudades más golpeadas por el COVID-19 en este mundo. En Ecuador, Guayaquil tuvo entre marzo y mayo el 62% de los casos coronavirus, que provocó lamentablemente el fallecimiento de más de 10.000 personas. Y hay indicios que alrededor del 53% de los habitantes de mi ciudad fueron portadores del virus. Así como Guayaquil fue mencionado como el centro del virus en Ecuador, ha sido también la ciudad que más rápido ha mostrado signos de recuperación a nivel mundial.
Mayor Viteri, I'm sorry to interrupt, but unfortunately we are having trouble hearing your English translator, your English interpreter. Could you have him speak a little bit more directly to the microphone, please?
¿Qué dices? Que te acerque más al micrófono, allá. Y yo más lejos. Así como fue mencionado como epicentro de
Guayaquil was
el virus en
mentioned as the
Ecuador.
epicenter of the virus in Ecuador.
It has also been the fastest city showing signs of recovery worldwide. At the moment, we have 13 days with the normal death rate. And I consider it important that the world knows about our experience in an emergency for which no one was prepared, and from which lessons can be drawn to help implement the best strategies for future health crises and have hundreds of thousands of lives as we has achieved in Guayaquil. From the municipality of Guayaquil, we set up intermediate care centers from scratch that have managed to stop the death increase by COVID-19.
Tenemos una nueva oportunidad y debemos trabajar juntos para levantarnos con más fuerza y unidos.
56,035 people have benefited from our 100% free healthcare system.
Centros de atención que lograron detener la curva de muertes en la ciudad.
50 care units are available health systems divided in 35 mobile clinics, 6 municipal hospitals for COVID-19 patients, 3 non-COVID-19 municipal hospitals, the Great COVID-19 Medical Center, the Bicentennial Medical Hospital, 4 activated borders units for primary care. The strategic plan for door-to-door care. We had hundreds of thousands of humanitarian aid kits, food for a family of 4 for 7 days, masks, disinfection, fumigation, medical brigades, free medicines, health routes.
Daremos la bienvenida a todos los interesados en invertir y apoyar esta ciudad.
We welcome all those interested in investing and supporting this city.
Estoy segura
I am sure that this demonstration of courage of Guayaquil people will reach the ears of the whole world. A city that has managed to save lives and that is rising with the effort of all sectors of society. So that we can proudly say,
para que el mundo pueda decir con orgullo, a Guayaquil la levantamos todos.
We rise Guayaquil together. Thank you very much.
Gracias, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all mayors and governors and for your remarks and for your understanding that we did not have the time to allow every participant to speak. So far, we have heard from many cities regarding their responses to COVID-19. Infectious diseases such as COVID-19 have now become our new reality. To ensure that cities can better act together and find effective countermeasures against existing and emerging threats, Mayor Park Won-soon will now announce the Seoul Statement. Mayor Park, you have the floor.
Mayors and governors, thank you so much for spending so much time explaining your situation and explaining the best performances and showing your solid conviction for our mutual cooperation and solidarities. So we aim to build cities where citizens can lead to a safe and healthy life under the safeguard of prompt responses to and thorough prevention for infectious disease. So, the path we are taking is not the easy ones, but we believe that only if we take a step on the path with our hands joined together, the path will be explored rather safely. So understanding a general agreement on this necessity of city-to-city solidarity, we wish to build an intercity network which enables prompt joint responses to emerging infectious disease in an effort to, first, detect an infectious disease at an early stage and cooperate on preemptive responses. Second, share information on an infectious disease with partner cities and make efforts for joint practices. And third, provide human and material resource support to the partner cities upon the outbreak of an infectious disease. Fourth, cooperate in people-to-people exchanges to nurture a specialized workforce fighting against an infectious disease. Fifth, reduce barriers to travel and economic activities between cities to overcome socio-economic crisis caused by an infectious disease. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And today's conference is a meaningful first step for city governments to gather and share know-how to safeguard citizens against infectious diseases and disasters in the post-COVID-19 era. Thank you once again to all mayors, governors, and representatives of some 40 cities around the world for your participation. This concludes the Mayoral Meeting of Cities Against COVID-19 Global Summit 2020.